rebuilding. A catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40. We focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 147 of the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Stop reacting to external forces. Anytime that we lose sight of ourselves, or we've lost sight of ourselves, we're not sure what we're supposed to be doing, we don't know what our purpose is, or we've kind of drifted away from what our purpose, we spend a lot of days ending up reacting to the world around us. When we don't have an internal direction or a force, we get manipulated by the external forces around us. Basically, we're like a sailboat being blown around in the wind without a rudder. So we're at the mercy of the winds. We have no control as to where we're actually going. All we know is that we're moving forward. So sometimes we feel like we're getting things done because we're moving, we're busy, we've got the busy work, but we're really not moving towards a purpose or an objective. We catch ourselves, and this happens too. This is how you kind of realize it's happening, is when you look back on your day, your weeks and months, and you realize that you've actually been spending most of your time reacting to situations, jumping from fire to fire, solving problems, putting fires out, dealing with drama. Those are the signs that we're being manipulated by what's happening around us and not manipulating our environment based on what we're trying to do. You know, we end up doing things like chasing money because we're always broke. We're not productive because we're tired. People piss us off, because we're unhappy and unfocused inside. We were reacting to the things around us because the force inside us isn't strong enough. Like Star Wars, the force. What we need to do is create our own internal force. What we need to do is to remind ourselves what our purpose is. And if we go back even further, we need to make sure that we've figured out what our purpose is, who we are, what is it that we're trying to achieve. If we set goals and objectives, they're good, but they're not as powerful as a purpose. And to figure out your purpose, we got to dig deep. We got to figure out what is it that we truly want. We got to figure out who we really are, how we really tick. I use the term wheelhouse all the time. We were just talking about that earlier. What's our wheelhouse? What do we do that when we're doing it, we're at our most optimal, efficient, energetic, happy, peaceful self? And we need to figure out what that is. Most people don't take the time to do that. They just know sometimes they're happy. Sometimes they get shit done. Right? These are the guys I find that are, they're happy on dart night. Hanging out with the boys, having a few beers. Now, there's nothing wrong with that if you truly are happy with dart night. But at the end of the day, are we doing that because we're just really trying to mitigate the fact that we don't like what's happening the rest of the time? Because we don't feel like we're in control? Because we don't feel like we have a say in what's going on? And that's the kind of activity we find that, at least when I'm there and I'm doing that, all right, I can focus on that and it's fun and we're laughing, that kind of thing. And that's fine. If you're doing it for that reason, I think it's good. But if that's the only time you're happy, then I think there's a big problem. I think that's when we're stuck dealing with the external rather than building on the internal. Our internal force has to be stronger than the external force pushed against us. Instead of, chasing money, we need to create a budget, cut costs, increase revenue with a plan. But that only happens if we're sitting down and really looking at things objectively and deciding, how much money do I need to make right now? Am I spending money on the right things? A lot of times people spend money on stuff to make them happy just for an instant. The most exciting part of buying a car is when you actually go and actually buy the car. The next day, a lot of the excitement's waned. unless you're really into cars. So then we chase the next thing. What's the next thing that's going to make us feel better right away? And then we end up getting ourselves into a hole. We're talking with financial examples right now. If we focus on exercise and proper rest and eating right, we're going to end up, we end up having more energy and being more productive. But we have to want to be more productive. So if we don't have that desire, if we don't feel the need to be more productive, then we don't care what our energy level's like. We're going to do the bare minimum to get through. But that's not building and increasing your internal force. What you're doing is you're doing the bare minimum, and that's what's letting you get pushed around on a daily basis. We want to work on our own happiness. We want to work on how we feel about ourselves. And if we can become more at one with ourselves, more peaceful with ourselves, more, when we're doing things and we're making things improve and we're moving towards something, we feel good about that. Our self-esteem improves, our confidence improves. Well, when those things start to happen, how people think of us on the outside doesn't matter as much. People really can't piss us off if we're not already unhappy inside, with the exception of an instance or two that happens. But if you're always pissing and moaning, if you're always complaining about other people, if you're always jealous about other people, what's really happening is you're miserable with yourself. But rather than admit it, rather than say, hey, you know what I'm really bothered by is the fact that I don't have enough money to go on a trip and he has enough money to go on a trip. And rather than accept the fact that maybe that person is working harder, smarter, and deserves it, we'd rather turn around and just be jealous. Because we feel if we do that, if we admit that other individual probably worked his ass off and fucking totally deserves it, then we have to admit that we haven't worked our ass off. And then it's a reflection of how we're unfulfilled inside. Again, the internal force we have inside isn't positive enough. It isn't strong enough. So at the end of the day, it's not enough to, get out there and just deal with the day. Not if we want to really achieve what we want to achieve. At the end of it, we have to step up. We have to make ourselves tougher than what we're going to face. Because we're going to face things. If we have purpose and we have a real reason to be somewhere and to do something, we're not going to let things stop us. And if things do push us off track, we're going to course correct right away. Because the reason why we're doing it, the internal drive that we have, is stronger than what we're dealing with on the external. If you find yourself hanging out with people and they're negative all the time and they're always putting other people down, right? And you start to realize that, and you start to work on yourself, and you realize that you need to be more positive and you need to be more energetic and you have to be a better mindset, you quickly realize then these people aren't going to be people that you're going to be able to hang out with. So you have to make those changes. Now, changing your friends, changing your circle of influence isn't easy. That's why very few people do it. But that's only going to happen is if what you believe on the inside makes you have to do it. So how do we turn around and work on, creating a stronger internal force? Well, that's going to happen when we work on our personal strategies and our rituals. Again, there's that word again. We have to work on ourselves to increase, it's like training in the gym. We train to get stronger. And the more we apply ourselves and the more consistent we are with our training, the stronger we become, the more muscle we'll build, the more power we'll generate. Because we're conditioning our body to do so. It's no different than when we work on the inside. But if we only do it once in a while, if we only do a ritual, once a week or every couple of weeks, we mean well, we start and then stop, we're not going to benefit from it. We're not going to get stronger. We're not going to get better at it. So we really have to take ownership and realize that we have to work on ourselves. Because the real change that we go through can only happen from within. And until we admit that, until we own that, until we firmly believe it with all our heart and all our might, we're just going to dance that circle. We're just going to go around. We're going to start, we're going to stop. We're going to start, we're going to stop. And that doesn't lead to anywhere. That leads to frustration. Oh, it doesn't work. I tried. It doesn't work for me. Well, trying doesn't work. Doing works. And yes, you're going to stumble. And yes, it's going to be awkward at first. But keep coming back to it. But that's why we need a purpose. We need to know why we're doing this. We need to know why we have to get up. We need to know why it's important that we do the things that have to get done on a regular basis. We don't want to sit there and worry about bills coming in the mail anymore. So then what you got to do is you got to get in control of your finances. You have to create some internal rules for yourself that you won't spend anymore. You won't spend without thinking about what you're spending. You have an internal threshold. Hey, if I'm going to spend more than $100, I really need to sit down and figure out why am I spending this $100? Because if you put that $100 a week away, that's $5,000 a year in savings. That pays off a credit card for some people. That pays off a trip for some people. That's a car payment for a year for some people. And you can spend $100 in a flash today. And if you have more money, it's just another zero. $1,000 a week, $10,000 a week. But if you don't stop and look at things and figure things out and see where everything is going, you're never going to get on top of it. It's the same when we work on our personal development. We sit there and we say, we got to do stuff. Well, you know what? I tell people all the time, read for 10 minutes. And people are like, oh, I haven't got time to read. I don't like reading. Well, you know what? That's all bullshit. Because we can do it. It's nothing. In the scope of the hard things that people have to face in the world, reading 10 minutes a day is nothing. And if you're going to let yourself be that weak, then don't be surprised that you're not happy. Don't be surprised that you're not moving forward. Don't be surprised that you're not where you want to be. And you sure as fuck don't deserve to be there, no matter what you think. We talk about changing some of these rituals. None of these things are like, we're not digging ditches in the hot sun. We're not being fucking shot at. We're not in fear for our life walking home after work because we live in a shitty neighborhood. Those are real fucking concerns. Those are real fears. Those are real reasons why you're an hour late because you have to walk a different way from home because you fucking live in an area that's full of gangs and fucking crime and stuff like that. People go through that fucking shit. And you know what's cool? A lot of people that go through that shit come out of it better because they got used to things being fucking tough and they realized that the only way they were going to get out of it is to get tougher. Or the opposite. They succumb to it and they become part of that problem. So when I'm asking you guys to fucking read for 10 minutes a day, exercise for 20 minutes a day, and then you give yourself the excuses that, oh, I haven't got time. It's bullshit, guys. It's pure fucking bullshit. What it is you don't have a strong purpose. You don't have a reason, big enough reason to need to do it. That's why it's so important to figure out who you are and what you're going to do. Now, a lot of people are never going to do that. A lot of people are just going to be the Walking Dead out there, and they're going to be miserable and piss and moan, and they're going to just live for dark night. But if you're listening to these podcasts, if you're one of the listeners that, tune into this thing, you're not one of those people. Because you wouldn't be listening to this. You'd be listening to a fucking sports show. You'd be finding other ways to keep yourself busy, keep your mind occupied. Right? At the end of the day, if you're listening to this podcast or this type of podcast, it's because you want better for yourself. You want to improve. Well, one of the things you're going to have to do is build a strong internal force. Like I said earlier, real change comes from within, comes from the inside, and we're the only ones that can create that. And once you do, it's crazy powerful. But then you have to keep that ball rolling. You have to keep staying on top of the things that you're doing to maintain that. Because if you take your foot off that gas pedal, you will slow right the fuck down. But if you keep moving forward, it gets a little bit easier because you get better at it. You get more accustomed to it. It becomes the world that you know. I can't wait for the day where, the moment I don't do a ritual in the morning, that I know within minutes, because it becomes so foreign that I don't do it. I'm getting much better and it's improving. But I also know that if I keep doing it, keep getting better at it, in 365 days, there'll be the odd 4 or 5 days in that year where it doesn't get done. Right now, I'm probably hitting about 60%, which is better than I used to do. But it has to be even better to move where I want to do, to move where I want to become, to go where I want to be, to become who I want to become. It has to get done every fucking day. to the point where it becomes who you are. It becomes just automatic. It becomes foreign to you if you don't do it. It becomes painful to you if you don't do it. That's what we need to strive for. That's all I have to say on that. Head on over to iTunes. Leave us a 5-star rating, a positive review. Head on over to Hostile Gear. Use the code word Silverback. Get yourself some cool merch. Save 20%. Look pretty awesome. And as always, guys, work hard, motherfuckers. And I'll talk to you guys later.